What's up, y'all? It's your host with the most, your artist working the hardest, Mr. McKinnon. I'm always winning, and we're coming to you fresh off of the WrestlePalooza pay-per-view, which was WWE's first PLE on the ESPN platform. We're going to be covering Brock Lesnar versus John Cena, the Usos versus The Vision, Stephanie Vaquer versus Io Sky for the vacant Women's World Championship, the mixed tag team match between AJ Lee and CM Punk versus Becky Lynch and the visionary Seth Rollins, and then the championship match closing out with Cody Rhodes defending his WWE Championship against the Scottish Warrior Drew McIntyre. We're also going to be talking about the amazing opportunity that AEW has in order to take advantage of where WrestleMania 43 will be in 2027. We're also going to be covering ESPN's review on WrestlePalooza. We're also going to be talking about just all of the fan experiences that were had, that and much more, and what WrestleMania looks like in the future. Welcome to the Main Event Mindset Podcast. First on the WrestlePalooza broadcast, we had the opening match of Brock Lesnar versus John Cena. Last episode I got up here and I told y'all, what does Brock Lesnar do? He comes back every 10 years to beat up John Cena. 2003, beat up John Cena. 2012, beat up John Cena. 2025, beat up John Cena. That is that man's MO, and this was no different. So, introducing this match was Paul Heyman. And Paul Heyman, as you know, has history with Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar used to be with Paul Heyman since he debuted in the company. Paul Heyman was an advocate for Brock Lesnar in the past. Then he became the wise man for Roman Reigns. And then before that, he became the best friend of CM Punk. So Paul Heyman hitches his wagon to whoever is important at the time. He to champions. Now he's with The Vision and Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed. So him having this interaction with Brock, ladies and gentlemen, it's like they're on amends now because Paul Heyman betrayed Brock Lesnar for Roman Reigns. It's like, so Paul Heyman is just tied into all of these things. Now, they fought 2 times before that were in major matches. Maybe not 2 times before, 3 times before. They fought in 2003 at Backlash after Lesnar just won his WWE Championship after defeating Kurt Angle at WrestleMania 19. Boom. Then we had fresh off of WrestleMania 28 after John Cena lost to The Rock in Miami, Florida. I happen to be in attendance for that, by the way. Wink, wink, Miami, Florida. And then they faced off again. They faced off after the WrestleMania 29. No, after the WrestleMania 28 pay-per-view. I'm getting all my stars crossed here today, but it's okay. We're going to fix this. After WrestleMania 28, when The Rock and John Cena faced each other, Brock Lesnar came back and he F5'd John Cena, and they had a match at Extreme Rules in 2012. And that match was brutal, and it was awesome, and it had this legitimate feel behind it because Brock Lesnar was fresh off of UFC. You hadn't seen him for some time, and then he came back to WWE and faced John Cena. That whole spectacle. Then we had the SummerSlam match at 2014, where Brock Lesnar dominated John Cena. The birth of Suplex City, all of those things. This match, because we have different types of matches from these competitors and Brock Lesnar and John Cena, this match, you didn't know what to expect. It's what I was looking forward to it. I was hoping for the best. However, the best that this match had to offer was a lot of finishers. A lot of finisher spams, unfortunately. Started off, we had F5s and AAs out the gate. This match was not competitive. I just want to talk to you straight down the middle. And I also want to let you know what ESPN thought about this pay-per-view. Because this match had the makings of being great. But if you're looking at their match history, the best of those matches to me that I feel like, if you're talking about an actual wrestling match, the 2003 one at Backlash was probably the best match. If we're talking about spectacle and allure and all of these things and just like the mystery behind Brock coming back, 2012 Extreme Rules. That had a real big feel to it. Then the 2014 one, that was a squash. Brock just dominated Cena the entire time, but it was exciting because he'd never been dominated before. Not a top champion just getting wrecked. It just doesn't happen. So this one, I was like, okay, maybe they can mix it up a little bit. No, finisher spams. The build to this match. You had commentators. Corey Graves was F5'd. He hadn't taken a bump in God knows how long. That's one thing. Corey Graves took an F5 on SmackDown, looking for John Cena when John Cena said he wouldn't be on SmackDown no more. Then you had, oh my gosh, you had Michael Cole getting rough housed and manhandled. Brock is a destroyer, and he's the loose cannon, the man that's on edge. That's like, he's unpredictable. You don't know what's gonna happen. This match, the best thing about this match was probably the entrances and the allure from it. John Cena had a bunch of little kids coming out wearing John Cena gear, his yellow gear. And then after the match was over, after the multiple F5s, the referee gets F5'd for his troubles, and then Cena gets F5'd again. There was just literally this matches was AAs and F5s and pins, and that was it. There wasn't a whole lot to see there. But and then next time we're going to see John Cena on his retirement tour is in Perth in Australia on October 11th at Crown Jewel, which we don't know who his opponent is going to be. And there's that for that match. So, next on the card, we're going to talk about the Usos versus the Brawns, a.k.a. Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker. Now, the Usos came out. Again, more spectacle. They had to build up the allure of Jey Uso doing his entrance in front of this live stadium in Indianapolis, doing the yeet. First they came out to the Usos intro, which was dope because we haven't heard them be a tag team in about a year and a half since they teamed up. Jay went to go break off on his own, do his thing, become world champion, da-da-da. Now he got his own main event music, main event theme, main event-ish. It's just me, Us. Day one, so the crowd, they had to get the pin because there's just been so many dope shots of whether they're in France or whether it was at Mania, just like the energy, you want to capture that. So they made sure to make this a big deal here with his entrance, right? It showed the spectacle of it. The match itself, the match was good. Braun Breaker. Now, in this match, Jey Uso, he accidentally busted himself open with a chair. Now, he hit Braun Breaker in the back with a chair, but apparently the ricochet came off of Braun's back and hit Jey Uso in the head, split him open. I'm trying to figure out where this actually happened at. Just like, this guy's bleeding out of nowhere. There was no blades. There was no nothing. And then also, LA Knight didn't help this at all. LA Knight was the special guest referee of this match, and he was loosely enforcing the rules. So this match basically was a no DQ match. It's like when somebody brought out a chair, LA Knight didn't like anybody in this match, so he just kind of looked the other way. And then so there was chair shots, there's people being put through tables, there was LA Knight actually, and I'm saying this because of the WWE on Real Doc. LA Knight, what we found out that the ref job is to communicate. And so what LA Knight did is he had to go over and tell Braun Breaker, we need to go ahead and wrap this up. So Braun Breaker finishes this matchup by spearing Jey Uso and finishing him off. He speared both Usos through the table, which was a great spot, but also it was just like you could tell that the match was cut short because something unplanned happened. And this is why I have respect for the wrestlers, because even if, the matches have their planned spots and things like that, things can always go wrong. And Jey Uso was a perfect example number one here. Because if you're not supposed to bleed, and then you bleeding profusely, when the match was over, Jey Uso or Jimmy Uso had to cover Jay's head with a towel because they couldn't stop the bleeding. And then so they had to go ahead and end the match off. So, the match itself I thought was fine. But it left more to be desired because it was cut short. That's nobody's fault. It's just freak accidents happen. What are you going to do? The next match on this card that we're going to talk about is Io Sky versus Stephanie Vaquer. Now, this match was the highlight of the night, and it's because you have two amazing professional wrestlers, two of the best wrestlers in the world. You ain't gonna talk about the fact that they're two women wrestlers, two of the best wrestlers, period. Io Sky is on trend for having like a match of the not match of the year, but being women's wrestler of the year. And right behind her probably is Stephanie Vicaire. Stephanie Vicaire went from holding the women's championship in CMLL and their tag team championship at the end of last year, if I'm not mistaken. Then she came to WWE. She was NXT North American Women's Champion. Then she became NXT Champion. And then she came up to the main. So she was the first double champion in NXT, even though Mandy Rose is going to have a problem with that. Mandy Rose unified two titles, but she wasn't a double champion. So even though she was holding two belts, still counted as one because it was a unification match. But Stephanie Vicaire, she won the Women's North American Championship and the NXT Women's Championship. Then she came up to the main roster. A lot of fanfare around her, having great matches. Her Devil's Kiss is over for multiple reasons. Like Booker T likes to say, ah, 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 ah. Oh man. And one thing that I found out about this move with the Devil's Kiss apparently is that she was messing around in the ring and then she was setting up the move and it looked like a DDT and it was weird. It was like the positioning that she was getting out of. And then she said that she kind of likes that. It's like a DDT, but like multiple times over. And the whoever she was training with at the time wasn't a fan of it. But she was like, no, I like it. I'm going to keep it. And then she kept it. And it's one of the most over moves in all of pro wrestling right now. To the point that when they did NXT TakeOver this past Tuesday, when they did the NXT Homecoming, it was supposed to be Stephanie Vicaire, Io Sky, and Rhea Ripley. But I believe Stephanie was out at the time. And then, no, Stephanie wasn't out at the time because Stephanie was there. She did a double devil kiss with Rhea Ripley. But it was Io that couldn't be there for whatever reason. And then they had Lyra Valkyria there. But they did a stereo devil's kiss. And, of course, the NXT crowd popped like crazy for it. So it just goes to show you a little lesson in here. If you like something and somebody else doesn't, you stick with your guns. You know that it's something to go to. Stick with your guns. Take the risk. And millions of people now love the Devil's Kiss as a finisher, as a signature move. So this match was easily the best match on the card. You have two of the best women's wrestlers going at it. Chain wrestling, high flying. You know, Io Sky, you know, she hurt her knees at some point. She started to, so even though this wouldn't be the smartest thing in the world, while Stephanie Vicaire was working over her leg, doing, I love the dragon screw that she does in the corner. Dragon screws are like just an old school move that I'm glad is making a comeback. So she does a dragon screw in the corner. And then Stephanie, or Io rather, she takes her knees, she pulls down the knee pads. She ends up doing a Meteora in the corner. She ends up doing the running knees, like what Andrade used to do, which Andrade is no longer with WWE, by the way. So if you're an Andrade fan, sorry. There's all news about that later on. But she did the running knees in the corner. She also did this. She did a move that drove her knees into Stephanie Vicaire's ribs, but it was like, if your knees are damaged, why would you do this? But it just, I don't know. I just feel like the knee pad joint was it was telling the story about how she had damaged knees, and then her doing the moonsault on top of that, landing on her knee. It was just like, okay, she's working hurt here. Stephanie Vicaire, again, just a great tactician. I love how she won the match. So she ended up doing or finishing off the match with a spiral tap. And with the spiral tap, if you've seen AJ Styles do it, it's a fantastic move. And he said that he can't do the move no more. But Stephanie was crowned your new women's world champion with a spiral tap. And they congratulated each other. They hugged each other. They embraced each other after the match. Stephanie went to go hug her dad in the ring with the brand new championship. Of course, Naomi vacated the women's championship because due to pregnancy from Jimmy Uso in the previous match. And so we had to get a new women's world champion. Now we could have got this at Clash in Paris last month, but there had to be a delay, all of the things, and we got it here tonight. And so shout out to Stephanie. There's people that feel like Io Sky should have won the match because then you have Crown Jewel Perth coming up. Crown Jewel Perth is in Australia. Who's from Australia? Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley is just gonna not make a whole lot of sense if she's not challenging for the championship. But we're gonna find out what happens because Monday Night Raw is tonight. But that was the highlight of the match, or the highlight of the night, that match. So if there's any match to go back and watch, you're going to want to watch that one. The next match that we have on the card was the returning AJ Lee after 10 years of not being in the ring with her husband CM Punk versus the other married couple, the World Heavyweight Champion Seth freaking Rollins and the man Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins came out here looking like two matching Pop-Tarts, the Wildberry Pop-Tarts. Two big purple, just giant balls of love, I guess is what they were trying to portray. And then they did the descent entrance that they had, like the scaffolding that they were on, and then it slowly brought itself down. They came out as a unified front. Then, of course, you had CM Punk and AJ Lee. And CM Punk and AJ Lee came out. CM Punk came out to his entrance first, and then they came out collectively to AJ Lee's theme. This match went on long. I'm not going to hold you. That match, it was a good match. It was a fun match, but it was 30 minutes long, and it didn't have to be that long. The build was, what is AJ going to look like after 10 years being back, after not being in the ring for 10 years? And so they kept AJ Lee on the apron almost as long as they can, as long as they could. CM Punk was getting beat up by Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins, being put in submissions, stomped out, all of the things. These people went back and forth, trading submission holds. The Black Widow is AJ Lee's finisher. Because as I was corrected on TikTok, because I called it, I couldn't remember the move. I ain't seen this woman in 10 years. I was like, is it the tarantula? No, that's Victoria's move. Is it the widow's bite? No, that's somebody else's move. I was like, something to do with a spider, but it's the Black Widow. And so she put that on to CM Punk. She put that on to AJ Lee eventually. The match again was very chaotic. Again, loose rules because again it's AJ's first night back. There was a spot that they did on the table, on the announce table, where it looked like Becky Lynch was gonna go for a manhandle slam and put AJ Lee through the table, but Seth Rollins had CM Punk set up for something. He stopped doing that. Then Becky Lynch ends up throwing AJ Lee into CM Punk on the other announce table, making it all crash and tumble down. You had it was a lot of things that was going on. I think that it's worth going back to watch because while there was a little bit of ring rust, AJ Lee did look great here. I mean, it's the first match back in 10 years, and then your first match back and you go 30 minutes. That's a lot. Even if it's a tag team match, I don't care. There's a lot of things to remember. There's a lot of things to get in, but the match in and of itself, I thought was great. I'm looking for, and what it does is that it sets up AJ Lee to be in top contention for the Women's Intercontinental Championship because AJ Lee in a return match put Becky Lynch in a Black Widow and had her submit. And so even though this wasn't a one-on-one match, it sets things up for a really great feud because Becky Lynch is amazing on the microphone. There's a reason how I'm gonna say what she said. Sports Illustrated says it, that she's the best women's wrestler. And then now you have Bleacher Report that just came out with a report that's saying that she's the top women wrestler of all time. We're not going to argue about that list because that list is a whole other thing. Lists are meant to be discussed and they're basically like clickbait at this point. When you're talking about top 10s, top 5s, top 20s, I feel like they mix up names on these lists intentionally. Even when you're talking about hip hop, they mix up these names intentionally to get people to argue and to engage and all those things. And I'm not going to get too much into that top 10 list with Bleacher Report. All I'm going to say is that there's two entities now that call Becky Lynch the greatest women's wrestler of all time. And she's definitely going to be using that to her advantage. And it's just going to be more ammo for AJ Lee when she goes to try to take that women's intercontinental title off of Becky Lynch. Now, we are going to talk about the next part of the card. We're going to talk about the big surprise. So, Triple H made it a point to talk about, to go on ESPN. There's going to be spectacle, there's going to be surprises, there's going to be all of these things, right? What we got as a surprise for the first time on this card was The Undertaker coming out, hearing the gong, and then out of nowhere you hear the American Badass music. He comes out as a biker. He drives, he pulls up, and he parks his bike right next to who? Stephanie McMahon. Stephanie McMahon sitting at ringside, watching the action. She's clapping. She doesn't know what's going on. She's just, doing her thing. Undertaker gets off his bike. He goes, "Can I sit down right there next to you?" And then she's like, "Yeah." He's talking to her. He's like, "We know each other a long time." Meanwhile, all the fans are thinking about, the time where you tried to crucify her in front of her father and you put her on a cross, and then Stone Cold had to come and save his arch nemesis's daughter, and then like all of these things, right? And then so fast forward from being almost sacrificed and crucified by the Undertaker to him saying, "Surprise, we're going to have you be the first member of the 2026 WWE Hall of Fame." And Stephanie's face was like super confused and whatnot. Remember, WrestleMania is in April. It's September. We don't get these Hall of Fame announcements usually until around March, or like the month before Mania, where you have to start building up the speculation for who's going to be in the Hall of Fame, because you're selling tickets. You're selling tickets to WrestleMania weekend. It's a part of the whole experience. You get to see the legends of the past, the present, and all of those things, right? So this felt more like it's ESPN, it's most eyeballs, it's Triple H, it's his wife Stephanie. Stephanie, no one is going to discredit Stephanie's impact on the most popular time in the business, which is the Attitude Era. Stephanie, as a GM she was the first SmackDown GM, because Eric Bischoff was the first Raw GM. She was an integral part in all of the Vince McMahon storyline, the McMahon family shenanigans storyline with Triple H, the Authority in 2014. Just like she's with all the slapping that she's done to main talent. Allowed herself to be talked about in crazy ways that in 2025, if you think the FCC is shutting down stuff now, which gotta remember it's a wrestling podcast, we won't get into too much of that right now. But if you think that it's bad now, go back and watch some of the footage from that time. So Stephanie McMahon is the first inductee into the 2026 WWE Hall of Fame. And that's great. That was really the main surprise of the show. In your main event, you had Cody Rhodes versus Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship. I'm a big Drew McIntyre fan. I told you guys this a bunch of times. And I like Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes has started to get booed a little bit depending on who brings him up. Roman Reigns brought him up and he got booed. And Roman Reigns was like, "Interesting." John Cena brought up Cody Rhodes' name in a promo at some point when he was still heel before he turned back babyface, and the crowd booed him again. So they boo Cody Rhodes in spurts when he's mentioned by somebody that may be more popular than him. But when Cody Rhodes comes out, he's not booed. He's cheered. And the only other time I seen that he was booed a little bit was when he was defending his championship against John Cena, right after John Cena turned babyface randomly on an episode of SmackDown. And so it's like Cody Rhodes is in that spot where it's like he's finally the top guy, but it's what fans do when they're bored, and some of them are fickle. They turn on you. They're just like, Cody Rhodes is too white meat babyface, or he's too much of a good guy. He don't have enough edge, or he's boring. They liked Roman Reigns because he was interesting, because he was a villain and had all these complexities and things like that. But Cody Rhodes here, he was cheered tonight, and Drew McIntyre as the heel, he got booed. I thought it would have been a bold choice and something more interesting to put the title on McIntyre. However, I didn't get my desire. And I'm also okay with the fact that Cody Rhodes defended his championship successfully in this match. The story that they told in this match was basically Drew McIntyre having more knee damage. He has a gripe in this match. Drew McIntyre, which was perfectly legal, by the way, he was going to Claymore kick Cody Rhodes' head into the side of the announce table like he did before on SmackDown, which is why Cody Rhodes was off of TV for almost, it felt like a month. We know he had his film Street Fighter, but still, he kicked him off of television for the foreseeable future. He was in his right to do that, but the referee got in his way and stopped him from kicking his head into the corner. The referee also in this match dove out of the ring to try to protect himself from Drew McIntyre throwing Cody Rhodes into the turnbuckle. And while McIntyre had a roll up, the referee was out of position. He was out of the ring because he was trying to protect himself. So Drew McIntyre has another gripe on not being WWE champion, the gripe that he's held for the last 5 years, which is he won the WWE championship during COVID, during the pandemic era. He carried the company through the darkest times. He beat Brock Lesnar in the main event of WrestleMania, and then he turned around and actually beat the Big Show again in that same night. Held the company down. He did it without the fans. Drew McIntyre has not had a notable championship run since then, and that is the fuel that is pushing this 6-foot behemoth man to the edge to stop being trifled with. And he's sick of it. And this match is just going to give him more ammo to talk about how he was screwed out of the WWE Championship once again because the referee was doing a bad job. We're going to see what happens on the upcoming episode of SmackDown. The match of itself was okay. It felt like it was more of like a match you could have seen at SmackDown or a regular PLE. I'm going to read the article from ESPN, or the review from ESPN. It says, the excellent Vakir versus Sky match saved this show from being truly average. It was a phenomenal display inside the squared circle. Everything else was either underwhelming, the short Rhodes and McIntyre match, or a setup for a future match, Lesnar dominating Cena, for a card that promised to have epic moments. It fell a little short of expectations, and the final grade was a C. That is an honest review, because remember, folks, WrestlePalooza only happens because AEW had All Out, which was booked months in advance, and WWE said, we have a partnership with ESPN. We're going to do some aggressive business modeling, and we're going to do WrestlePalooza at the same time as All Out. Now, I didn't get an opportunity to watch All Out, but I heard it was a great show. And what I also enjoyed is the fact that what I did see on my social media feed was the fact of Edge, Adam Copeland, did a John Cena tribute in his match against FTR when he was against FTR. And the crowd did You Can't See Me. An AEW crowd doing the John Cena You Can't See Me, and John Cena ain't even been on the show. It lets me know, it's like the Chris Van Vliet episode that I saw. Us as wrestling fans, we all love wrestling, but the tribalism is like, we're acting like we're not watching all the same wrestlers. People that like football are watching all 52 teams. If the NFL doesn't have 52 teams, forgive me. I know they don't have 52 teams, actually, so I take that back. If you go watch all the NFL teams and you watch all the NBA teams, you can be fans of, you can hate somebody because they're on a particular team, and that's what wrestling fans do. It's only because they're on the team, but they don't hate the wrestler themselves. Watching the fans chant You Can't See Me in AEW, which AEW is supposed to be like the wrestling purist company, it's the alternative of WWE, I think it's fascinating. And it just shows that, I don't know, it feels like the people behind the office are a little bit more ridiculous than the fans can be sometimes. It's like the fans can be a problem, but when given a moment like that, and in the respect that they have for John Cena, for as much hate as John Cena was getting throughout his entire run for saying you can't wrestle, and he does the same 5 moves and all these things, AEW is supposed to be the elite purist wrestling organization. So I just love the fact that they could show John Cena love, and Edge showed him love, because John Cena showed Edge love in a match on SmackDown with Sami Zayn for the US title, which was an open challenge match. Fantastic match, by the way. You should go back and watch it, because that was an homage to when Sami Zayn first came to the main roster and John Cena was the US champion and Sami Zayn faced him for the U.S. Championship. Sami Zayn injured himself in that match, but either way, it was a nice throwback to something that happened over 10 years ago and bringing Sami into the company. And then now it was just a nice homage that as Cena is leaving the company, Sami Zayn would offer John Cena that U.S. title open challenge the same way that he did for him. So nice wrestling storytelling here when it comes to that. But ultimately speaking, again, WrestlePalooza doesn't happen again unless AEW has All Out. And AEW had some amazing news there, but I want to watch it for myself and then talk to you guys about it. I don't want to speak about it from an uneducated standpoint. And then, so there's that with the WrestlePalooza news. Now, when it comes to some things that I wanted to talk about here too, this is something that's small, but not so much. Again, I don't go looking for these things. These things find me, and I just happen to be born this way. And so I'm just going to read what I saw. So y'all know the main ring announcer for WWE is Alicia Taylor. Alicia Taylor, if you don't know her, she's the main ring announcer on WWE TV, like I just mentioned. She's a black woman. She wears her hair different, eccentric. She used to be in a rock group when she was younger, in a rock band, which is dope. And then, and then she has vocals on her. Obviously, she's a ring announcer. And she made a tweet saying that Lillian Garcia is going to be holding the fort for her this upcoming Monday on Raw, which is going to be tonight as the time of this recording. Monday Night Raw is going to be in the hands of Lillian Garcia as the announcer. Somebody went on Twitter and said, "Thank God you are god awful." And she responds with, "Suck my eggplant." Right? This is a real tweet. And then the person comes back and says, "You can suck at your job. Stop being so insecure. You are the definition of a DEI hire." Now, why am I highlighting this pathetic person here? It's just to drive home the fact, I guess, that at the end of the day, no matter what, I try not to make this podcast too political at times, but it just shows again, no matter where you go, she's doing her job and she does her job well, but she gets harassed just for being black. And I don't even want to give that Twitter user I don't want to say their screen name or whatever the case may be. But I just find it interesting because as the community, as part of a black community in wrestling, we just want to watch a product like y'all, man. we just want to enjoy this stuff like y'all. It's like we could do without being called DEI hires or being made a mockery of. It's like Alicia's been doing a fantastic job. She hasn't done anything. Like, she had an amazing moment in the ring with Cena, bringing him out and all those things. And so, it's just be a decent person, be kind, be respectful. Stop hiding behind the internet, being a keyboard warrior, spewing your hate, spewing those things. We got enough going on in the world on a regular basis. It's like the internet doesn't need that. These people are performers. They out there doing their job, and there's that. So I just wanted to highlight that because people be feeling like you making stuff up, that we just make stuff up, that we just talk just to talk, and we just these things come from osmosis and they don't. So there's that. Coming up next on the WWE schedule, we have on October 11th, again, Crown Jewel Perth, which we will have champion versus champion. It's going to be Cody Rhodes versus I was talking like Cody Rhodes just now. It's all love. I got love for people with lisps. Clearly, I'm growing one, it seems. But we have Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins in a champion versus champion match at Crown Jewel. I believe it's going to be for the Crown Jewel Championship. So we have that. So we're going to get a break a little bit in storyline, I believe, from Seth Rollins and CM Punk and Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre. But who knows? maybe their rivals will try to soften them up before the champion versus champion match, and then we'll find out what goes on into War Games. What ESPN was alluding to also was perhaps a follow-up, another match with John Cena and Brock Lesnar. I hope we don't get it, but if we do, I hope it's better than this match. And then, of course, Seth Rollins versus Cody Rhodes is going to be a great match. Seth Rollins has never beaten Cody Rhodes in WWE. So that's going to be interesting to see what that looks like, because when Cody Rhodes came back from WrestleMania 38, he beat Seth Rollins 3 times in a row. And so that's going to be interesting. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this episode of Main Event Mindset Podcast, sponsored by Kraken Law Group. I want to thank any other sponsors that we have, and I also want to thank you guys for being with me, because this wrestling podcast, it gives us all an escape, from what's going on in the world. And while I like to keep those things separate, sometimes I gotta let you guys know that I'm living on this planet just like you are. So if I see something that's weird or whatever, or something that speaks to me, I gotta remember that I'm speaking to my fan base and my audience. So thank you guys for being here, and thank you for watching. Until next time, it is your host with the most, your artist working the hardest, Mr. McKinnon. I'm always winning. Until next time, peace.